Hi, thanks for tuning in to High on Horror. I'm Drew.
And I'm John. This episode and every future episode is dedicated to all the horror hounds and smokers out there who want to expand their knowledge of the genre and have a good time.
There's movies that just give you chills when you think of them, and that's what today's film that we're discussing does for me. The film we're talking about is the Southern Gothic slow burn What Josiah Saw. This is one of those movies that you have to see for yourself, but we're going to go as deep as we can into it, and then we're talking with the director, Vincent Grashaw, who's our guest here today. We're going to pick his brain in an exclusive interview. All that and more today on High on Horror. Interviews, reviews, and the latest news all rolled into one. And you know the drill. We always start off these episodes by getting baked, so it's time for Strain Wreck, the segment of our show where we discuss what strain we're getting wrecked on and the current events in horror. John, what do we got today, man? What are we smoking?
Okay, this is a cross.
I see from here that it looks orange. There's a lot of orange hairs on it. I could see that.
Yeah, there's some orange hairs. It's like a light green. It's a low THC. Well, I'm sorry. Actually, I don't know why I said it was low. It's a little higher than average, 19%, but it's a cross between pink cookies and triple OG. It's called 3 in the Pink.
You're fucking lying, dude.
There it is.
Oh my god. What? Hold on, let me look at the label. Yo, I know when you were picking out strains, you deliberately were like,
yeah. I had to get that.
So wait, is there like a sister strain that's like 1 in the stink?
Maybe. Or maybe it's 2 in the stink, 3 in the pink. You just go Vulcan with a thumb. Anyway, like I said, it's a cross between pink cookies was the mother and triple OG was the father. It's a strong, relaxing high. Which kind of almost sounds like an oxymoron when you say it out loud, but it makes sense.
It's got like I'm smelling like a lemon lime. It's like kind of like a lemony, lemongrass.
Yeah, it's got that like citrus.
Yeah, citrus is a good word.
This is another one that like last week, make it tingly. Tingly, focused, and creative. It's interesting. But yeah, it gives you a big time body high. It's good for the it's pretty good for at night, so hopefully we don't just like fall asleep with this.
Well, yeah, hopefully not.
It says to expect a spicy, herbal, and citrus terpene profile.
Damn. Well, I was gonna say that there's this new documentary called "The Rise of the Synths." And it's narrated by John Carpenter. Right, well, it's...
yeah, I saw that. I didn't want to pay for it, though.
Well, it's it's about, quote, the rise of the synths traverses 9 countries, interviewing the scene's biggest stars and original trailblazers. The film explores the roots of the now breakout synthwave scene, charting its humble online and underground beginnings to its impact on today's pop culture. Yeah, so, it looks good. I didn't even know you had to pay for it. I just saw an article about it and thought, hey, this looks...
Maybe it's on a service I don't have, but I remember... How long's it been out? Because I
think it just came out, man. I just saw it.
Or maybe I was seeing ads for it, but it's like... there's another documentary I want to see, but every time I'm like, I'm not paying for it. It's the one about Tony Hawk video games. It was like about the rise and like fall of those.
What were those games called again, man? The Tony Hawk. It's like Tony Hawk's
Pro Skate.
Pro Skate. Yeah.
Yeah, like the because it talks about like how popular punk music became for a little while because of the soundtrack.
Okay.
But yeah, that's another one. I'm like, I'm not paying $3 to watch this. There's so many documentaries that I'm like, I want to watch that, and then they're just saved in my list forever. Because every time I'm like, every time I in theory, I want to watch it.
Yeah.
But in practice, every time I'm like, I don't want to watch it.
Well, here's the thing. I have no problem.
But I want to see this, but I don't want to pay money.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say was I have no problem. If I want to see something, I have no problem paying for it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to kill what I love and steal it or whatever like that. But, like, in bootleg, like, I will pay for it if I want to see it bad enough. But it has to be something that I really, really want to see. And the thing with that is, like, really it's a waiting game and a patience thing because it's like even when you do pay for it, say you want to, like, oh, I'll pay for the streaming service to get it or I'll pay to rent it, it's going to be available later in a couple months on some other streaming service for free. And I always am like, damn, I could have just waited and not paid for it.
Tony
so that's
Hawk
the
one
thing
is
with
not
paying
that
for
way.
shit is like, you know, like you're going to get me later and give it to me for free. Like I might as well wait. And so I can imagine that affects rentals, but I have no problem paying for something if I really want to see it, but I don't think I would pay to see this. I'll wait for it to be on like Netflix or if it ever goes, whatever. I'll see it at some point, but I don't think I'll pay to rent it.
In theory, and I think it's streaming that has done this to me, is this. I don't know if this is weird or not. I don't want to pay for a documentary
I understand that.
because I feel like, in theory, I'm going to watch it that one time. Maybe one other time if somebody else wants to watch it. So I feel like, and it's funny because usually documentaries are cheaper, but every time I'm just like, I don't want to pay for it. I'd rather just watch whatever documentaries are on this streaming service or that streaming service.
Yeah, I get it.
And like I said, that Tony Hawk one, I've thought the same thing. It's been out, I think, maybe 2 years. I've never seen it pop up on a streaming service, and it's frustrating because that's what I'm doing. I'm like, I'm not going to pay the $3, and then next week it's free on Netflix.
You're just waiting for it, right?
But
right.
God damn, it was never free.
Well, okay, so hold on. So moving on from that,
Oh yeah, but are you going to check that? If it was free, would you watch it?
I'll 100%.
watch it.
That's what I said. Yeah, if it was free, I'd watch it. But it's
My
nothing.
fault. There's been a lot of weed.
It's not that I'm against paying for a particular. It's just I'm not signing up for another streaming service, and I'm not going to keep getting baited with all these new like, oh, this has that, so let's pay for this. It's like I'm good. Like I'll come across it, but I'm not going to pay for it. But what I really wanted to talk about that we haven't talked about on the air yet is the American remake of the Austrian horror film Goodnight Mommy. Goodnight Mommy is such a fucked up movie.
Yeah, it is.
I was a champion of that movie since it came out. That movie is fucked up, and now I'm apprehensive about this due to the fact that all of these brutal foreign films are getting such docile remakes in the U.S. Like Martyrs and Inside, they were a fucking joke. And this one's directed by Matt Sobel. He's new. He hasn't really done anything yet, like because he's kind of like just like a short film type of thing, dude. But that makes me, it makes me a little confident that maybe he can pull it off because a lot of new people, young guys stepping into horror tend to have like a decent eye for it, you know what I mean? But it's kind of like also it makes me apprehensive because it's like he hasn't done anything yet. So I want to give him a chance, and I don't know.
Yeah, but we have also seen a lot of people. I mean, just from guests we've had on the podcast, how many of them have come from short films and then made that jump to feature length?
That's what I'm saying. He might just need this one movie to break out, and this could be it. But it's just also like
it has Naomi Watts in it.
You're trusting a great movie in the hands of someone new. So I hope it's in good hands. But yeah, it looks like they're trying to stay faithful to the original, which is about two sons whose mother gets out of the hospital with her face bandaged up from a surgery she had done. But the longer the boys stay around her, the more they start to figure out that it's not their mother under the bandages. Someone else came home from the hospital.
It's a good ass movie.
Yeah,
But
it has a fucking wild twist ending.
I don't know, because I feel like here in the States, we're a little conservative when it comes to
Horror with kids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like, when you started getting me to watch like European, I was like, fuck, they actually went there.
Yeah, like kids are on the block. They literally are on the chopping block. Totally. But
we were talking about last week for episode 3. I mean, we can talk about it now because it's out. I'm trying to think of the movie. It had the kid at the table. Why can't I remember? He comes back from.
Had the kid from the table. What are you talking about? You said episode
it was from the 101 Scariest.
Okay. Terrified.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Terrified.
I don't know how I forget Terrified.
I just didn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah. I mean, you don't see that shit with Americans.
Like, and kid shit is creepy, and that's why all this shit that's creepy is it's foreign. It's because they involve fucking kids. But
how many kids, 80s and 90s kids with Pet Sematary with Gage? That shit was creepy.
Yeah, 100%. And but no, the final shot of the original Goodnight Mommy totally left me speechless. It really did. So I hope the remake doesn't suck, man. I really do.
I hope.
Yeah.
I don't have a whole lot of faith.
All right, well, I'm going to hit this now. Why don't you move us along?
Damn. So we ain't got a screaming room for you this week. So we're just going to get right into horror history.
This week in horror history.
All right. Speaking of Naomi Watts, she celebrates a birthday this week on September 28th. Same as Nicole's.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
And Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, September 29th, 1995. And we're actually going to talk about this movie later on.
Yeah, it's funny how that worked out that it landed on this episode on horror history.
Yeah, and I mean, you got that, and you got the producer's cut. and as I said, for some reason, I go with the shittier version and always put on the producer's cut when I watch it for the most part.
You're a glutton for punishment, man.
And Reggie Bannister, who plays Reggie in the Phantasm film, celebrates a birthday on the 29th.
Okay, happy birthday.
Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, celebrates an anniversary on September 30th, 1988. And Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Both of those are fantastic horror comedies, man. I need to watch Tucker and Dale again soon. I might put that on my Halloween list.
I think it might have been on my Halloween list last year for horror comedy. Because I've been trying to get Nicole to watch it for the longest time. Because she was like, this movie looks stupid. I have no interest. And then she watched it and liked it.
And I like how, Reggie Bannister, you mentioned Reggie from the Phantasm films. I feel like now when you hear Reggie, it's like sounds like an insult with today's slang. Like in a remake of Phantasm, he'd be called Loud.
Oh, jeez. The late Dan O'Bannon, who wrote Alien and directed Return of the Living Dead, would be 76 years old today on September 30th.
Legend.
And then October 1st, which is a Saturday, a couple classics celebrate anniversaries. Night of the Living Dead, 1968. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. And Hatchet 2 in 2010.
You know what? I'm going to add Texas Chainsaw and Night of the Living Dead to my Halloween list. I'm feeling like watching all of these movies again. Like that time of year is kicking in, my friend. Where, it's.
I gotta finalize
I'm in the mood
my
to watch
list.
all of these. Which would you pick if you had to pick Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Night of the Living Dead? Which would you pick?
Oh, man.
That's a fucked up question.
I watched Night of the Living Dead. Was it this season Joe Bob did it?
Yeah. I believe it was. Yeah, it was. It was
I
this or
had
last.
Nicole watch it with me. There are times where it feels like that movie drags on. Not like, for extended periods, but sometimes it's just like, okay, just you two arguing a lot.
Yeah.
With your over-exaggerated punches.
I get that.
But, I mean, they're still both good. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, kill me. I think it's a little overrated.
Yeah. I've said that before. I do. I agree.
But if you're asking me which one's better, I would say Night of the Living Dead. Which one would I watch more? Texas Chainsaw.
That's fair. That's probably what I would say. Like, Texas Chainsaw is the easier watch, so it's something more to put on, like, in the background while you're, like, doing shit or smoking or whatever. But I feel like if you wanted to watch a movie, you would put on Return of the Living Dead. Really, I mean, Night of the Living Dead. I feel like you'd put that on if you wanted to actually sit down and pay attention to a movie.
So, yeah, I think that'll clear up our history for this week. And it's time to get into PPA, segment of our show where you listeners send us in questions through all the social media platforms at High on Horror 420 or through email at highonhorror420@gmail.com. And you can always submit it through our website, highonhorror.com.
Yo, man. Puff, puff, pass.
All right, our first Puff Puff Ask question comes from Phil from Arizona.
Zona.
He wanted to know...
Does he know Josh?
Maybe he's one of Josh's
Arizona's
friends.
a small state. They probably know each other.
Right. Well, if you do, say hi.
Say hey.
Well, Phil wanted to know if when we watch the Friday the 13th films, if we have to watch them in order. And my answer is nope. I think most fans are on the same page, right? Where like we've seen them so much that we don't need to see them in order.
There's very little connectivity through the majority of the series.
That's what. Exactly. A lot of them aren't cohesive to the next one anyway.
And if there is connections, usually it's very small. like even Tommy Jarvis, that's literally the only connection. Is it's just Tommy Jarvis.
That's the only like set of films that followed a story, yeah, like the same story. But that's what's great about them. You can just walk in on any one of them at any part and sit back and enjoy. Like I could come home from work and be like, oh, Friday the 13th Part 4 is left and there's 40 minutes left. Cool, I'm gonna sit down and chill to it. You know, like I usually make sure that the final chapter, Part 3 and Part 3, and the New Blood make it into my rotation. Like those are my 3 go-tos. But I don't really watch them in any order, but those are the ones I neglect the least, I'd say.
New Blood, I probably neglect. Like I've told you, the real series is just up to Manhattan.
Yeah.
So just basing it on those 9. The one I probably watched the least is 5 and 7.
5 and 7.
But I mean, no, I do not need to watch them in order. I was thinking about I talk about like my earliest memories with Jason were Part 6 as a kid, and I was trying to think back. Like I don't remember being a kid watching Part 6 and go, "This is confusing." Like I didn't need to.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah, 100%. It makes total sense.
Obviously, there's a little bit of a backstory of Jason being dead, but like it didn't confuse me even as like a 6-year-old kid watching it.
Yeah.
I just usually, if I'm like, oh, I'm going to watch a Friday the 13th, I randomly pick. Although a couple years...
But do you watch them out of order? That's the thing, when you're watching them in like
I'll just
in a
be
concession.
Like,
or in succession. I said in concession. When you watch them in any like a block of like 2, 3, like do you watch them? Like does it have to be like 3,
I've
4,
literally
5,
watched 3 and
1,
then
2,
gone
3.
back and watched 2 after I watched 3.
Same, 100%.
And I'm like, this was kind of stupid, but whatever.
But the thing is, AMC and those channels do shit like that too, where it'll be like Halloween 6 at 7:00 p.m. and then at 9:30 p.m. it'll be like Halloween 4. You're like, what? What the fuck happened to 5?
Yeah, especially on AMC's overnight when it hits like 1 or 2 in the morning, it'll just get weird.
Yeah.
I don't need to watch them in any kind of order at all, really.
Okay.
And I still, every time I get a chance, I'll stick up for it. Jason Takes Manhattan's awesome. I don't care.
Part 8, yeah. I mean, but no, you like, we have to do an episode of Jason Takes Manhattan. No, we have to do an episode of Jason Goes to Hell.
Ugh.
That's your movie.
No.
So here's the thing. I'll say this real quick while we're talking about Jason. Now's the perfect time.
Can we talk about Allegory instead?
So my son wanted to see Jason. He wanted to he heard me talking to my wife about Jason X, and he's curious. He's young. He knows who the characters are, but he does not know like what they do. He just thinks they're cool looking. He's into monsters and cool looking things, and he thinks Jason looks cool. And he saw like a picture that I have of Jason X, like the mask, and he was like, "Is that Robot Jason? Can I see Robot Jason?"
Robot Jason.
So I was like, "Sure, man." So I wasn't gonna let him watch the movie, but I fast forwarded to like the scene when he Jason first walks into the doorway, and everybody's kind of looking at him, and the camera kind of one ups him, kind of gives him the once over, like head to toe, and you see him. That's all I let him watch. But the thing that really got to me, man, was I was fast forwarding through that movie to get to the part where it shows fucking Space Jason or. Why am I not thinking of what he's called?
Uber Jason.
Uber Jason. There we go. My point is, I had to fast forward to get to this part to show my son like a clip of him, and I did not realize, dude, it's after like the 1 hour and 5 minute mark in an hour and less than an hour and a half movie that he is in that suit. And I'm like, that is the thing for me now that I've realized that. I've never realized that before, but now it's like that's why Jason X sucks so bad. That's why it's not one of those like popcorn movies that I think other people try to make it out to be, because it fucking drags. If it's gonna be a ridiculous movie about him in space, we should not have to fucking wait over an hour into the movie to get to see him in space. Like just fucking get to it already. So it's like I think that I actually have switched my opinion. I think I like Jason Goes to Hell more than Jason X now, because like while Jason Goes to Hell might be weak, it at least like gets to the point and gets moving, and it's not just it is what it is the whole way through. So I think that my opinion switched. Dude, you can't be a slow burn a Jason X. I mean, Jason can't be a slow burn. I mean, I guess there's kills in between and you can't really say it's a slow burn, but I mean, you can't take that long to get to the point like in a slasher movie. It's
that's fair.
I kind of rambled.
Yeah, I think we've talked a while about Jason. So we'll just move on. Sarah Blewett.
Sarah Blood, okay.
Sarah Blewett. That's how you gotta say it. From Instagram. I'm just always taking the ones from Instagram. I'm lazy. Says she's obsessed with Spirit Halloween and asks if we've gone to Spirit Halloween yet. And what do we look for when we go? I mean, I was going to say, do you mean Spirit Halloween in general or just like this year? In general, yeah, this year there's been so many times that I'm like, oh, I should go. And then I'm like, oh, I'm too tired. I don't feel like going. And when I go, I don't have anything that I'm particularly looking for.
Yeah.
I just kind of go and I'm just like, what shit do they have?
Right. Yeah,
then I'm surprised, like, was it probably about 2 or 3 years ago, they had a lot of Halloween stuff. Not Halloween the movie,
Halloween
not
the
just
movie,
like, obviously they have a lot of Halloween stuff.
I was going to say, I think I mentioned this on a prior episode when we were talking, but I told you that my son, who Abel, was going to be Shorty the Killer Clown this Halloween. And it's funny because I have to go to Spirit Halloween. I'll be going for his costume. But I figured out that they have Shorty masks that would fit him that are small enough. But the costume, like the smallest was like a small and adult, and you know what I mean? So it was way too big for him still. But then I found like a loophole where Spirit Halloween sells Killer Clowns from Outer Space pajamas, where it's like the pajamas are like the costumes, and they have kid sizes.
Okay.
So, and even my wife was like, yeah, she's like, you know what? And then he can just keep the pajamas and still wear them after Halloween. So I got that planned out, and the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get him some boxing gloves. We're going to do the boxing glove Shorty thing. But when I go there, I look for everything. I mean, I go for costumes for my kids, but I look for cups, blankets, toys, signs, magnets, everything.
I have to tell Nicole when we go in, like, this is what I'm spending. Don't let me go over this amount. Like, just cut me off and tell me I've spent too much money here. Because there's so much shit I could buy. It's the only store I'm like that, too.
Yeah. Dude, I've gotten better at that. Like, I used to want to buy everything, and now that, you know, I have kids, and I'm like, you know, I'm looking at stuff, and I'm like, man, I have like $80 worth of shit, and my kid has $30 worth of stuff, and then I'm like, do I really need $80 worth of stuff? It's making me question things, you know, like, I'm like, you know, but there's still like the kid in me that just wants to buy fucking everything, but I'm on the same level with you. I usually try to match what my kids get. If my wife buys a bunch of shit too, she'll be buying blankets and cups, like there's like thermal cups and stuff, so she gets stuff like that, and then I'll be like, all right, well, if everybody else is getting about $30 of stuff, I'm gonna throw in like maybe $50 of stuff for me, you know. I'm the bigger horror fan, I should get a little bit more.
That's fair,
you know, but anyway.
Yeah, I haven't been there yet this season. It's
not yet, no, but I'll be going in probably a week or two.
Yeah, I thought there was one when we were down in Dover, but like thinking about Halloween, and I was thinking about like, damn, I know how much my parents were spending on me on Halloween, and I'm like, it's the equivalent to the price now. So I'm like, how much more expensive was it back like 20 years ago, like 25 years ago? Because I remember, I still remember my dad bought me a Michael Myers mask, and that thing was $40, and that was back in the mid-90s.
Trick or Treat Studios, the thing is, Trick or Treat Studios make some good products, but it's like they suffer like quality, what's the word I'm looking for? The quality issues. They have a real quality check, QC quality check. There we go. They have a real quality check issue where like they'll post a picture and it'll be like, dude, that is like the nicest Michael Myers mask I've ever seen. And then you get it, and it's that mask that you saw on the picture that you ordered on their website or through other websites, but there's so many things that need to be done to it now to make it look like it did in that picture. The hair won't be right, or the paint job's yellow. Like, why the fuck was the 2018 Myers mask? They killed the sculpt, but why was the stock paint job when you go in to buy it? Why is it like cigarette smoke yellow?
Cigarette smoke.
Yeah, it's like so. There was the whole thing was like it's like so.
You
it's
got
kind of
smoker
like
balls.
You have these people out there that buy. That make masks, that, you know, Instagram and other places, like they make masks and they're good at it. And it's like, you know, everybody's like, oh, you're paying $150 for a mask though, or $200 for a mask, and that's a lot. And Trick or Treat Studios only charges $45 or $50, and it's like, yeah, that's fair enough. But if you're gonna end up having to send it away to someone to have it customized and painted and paying all these extra fees anyway, why not just fucking buy the custom one?
If the mask that they show you looks like Halloween 1, when you get it, it's gonna look like Halloween 4.
That's a problem. That's a real problem.
So we jumped from Spirit Halloween to just ripping the quality of Michael Myers mask. So I think we're about done here. Now let's get into to our review of what Josiah saw. Like we said last week, we're going to tell you what Josiah saw. Actually, we're not.
The Gothic genre has been around a long time. The 1764 novel The Castle of Otranto by Horace Walpole is considered by the consensus to be the first step into the Gothic genre.
18th century.
And since then, literature has been littered with it, thrived on it. Think of Edgar Allan Poe, even if he did become popular after his death.
He was a gothy boy.
Looking back into history, there's some paintings that are considered goth, like The Flight into Egypt by Giotto that was painted in the early 1300s. Gothic has spilled into cinema as well, and as to be expected, some of horror's earliest films were German expressionist horror films like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and Nosferatu in the early 1920s.
Yeah, if you think about it, I mean, since the early days of cinema, the goth's been there.
Yeah, I mean, in 1931, the U.S. got into goth cinema with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Interesting enough, Gothic didn't reach Australian cinema until 1975 with A Picnic at Hanging Rock, which is about a group of students who go missing on a camping trip. Check it out if you haven't seen it. But yeah, even fucking Frankenstein, goth.
Yeah.
Frankenstein's goth.
I mean, a lot of it is.
Yeah. Pause. Are you going to mention The Witch in the Lighthouse? No? Okay. Then you have your Southern Gothic horror films like Night of the Hunter from 1955 and The Deliverance from 1972, the Skeleton Key remake from 2005, and others. Today's film and discussion, What Josiah Saw, is a mix of both Gothic and Southern horror, in the vein of Marrowbone and Frailty, starring the late Bill Paxton and Matthew McConaughey. Frailty is the one that I think stands as the best comparison to What Josiah Saw. Both deal in heavy childhood traumas and the way those traumas are coped with or not, and how it affects you when you're older, on top of adding a mysterious supernatural potential to the mix of how traumas or the people that caused you traumas haunt you. However, What Josiah Saw separates itself from the pack because it's a slow burn, and not many of these Southern or Gothic, not many of these Gothic or Southern Gothic horror films are slow burns. But What Josiah Saw infuses the slow burn technique into the Southern Gothic genre, and what you get is something truly special that keeps you on your goddamn toes for nearly 2 hours. John, take us through it.
What Josiah Saw is a 2021 American Southern Gothic horror film directed by Vincent Grashaw. The film stars Robert Patrick, Nick Stahl, Scott Hayes, Kelly Garner, and Tony Hale. Robert Patrick is amazing as the patriarch Josiah. He's just an overbearing piece of shit, which I have to say, like, Robert Patrick has nailed being just a scummy ass dad. Like,
Yeah.
this, when he was Johnny Cash's dad, like, he's good at just being an asshole.
He can turn it on for sure.
And the Graham family have spent 2 decades separated from each other, and they're reuniting to possibly sell the farmhouse. Josiah believed the family must right a great wrong and pay for their sins. Josiah is still at home. He still stays at the family farmhouse with his son Thomas, played by Scott Hayes. And Eli and Mary, they have not been around the family. They've kind of been separated from them. And like you said, it's a slow burn. And it slow burns for a long time. You told me before I watched it that you watched it and noticed that there was 25 minutes left and you had no idea what was going on. So I already knew that going in.
Yeah.
And when I was watching it with Nicole, I said, well, Drew told me he didn't know with 25 minutes, like, what was going on, how much was left. I said, let me see how much time's left. There was 15 minutes left. And I was like, wow, this is less than what Drew had. And I have the same question.
15 minutes with credits.
Yeah. And I'm like, how the fuck is this going to wrap up? You told me that at 25. And I'm like, I'm 10 minutes past that. And I'm still like, what the fuck? Robert Patrick, as an actor, period, I don't think he gets enough credit.
Yeah. I agree.
He brings it in everything he's in. Whether the project he's in turns out good or not, you can't fault his performance.
You know, and it's funny you say that. Real quick, I'm going to be a geek real quick and talk about Terminator 2.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem talking about it.
So we know, so the whole thing, people actually misjudged him, and I know that you've heard the saying too, or people saying this because you grew up as me, like with that movie with Terminator 2, where people were always like, oh, you know, like they sped that up to make him run that fast when the T-1000 is chasing John Connor on the motorbike, and they're like, you know, everybody always said that back in the day, like he's not that fast, they sped that up. There's no way he's that fast, yada yada. The truth behind the situation is, this is fact. This is from Robert Patrick's mouth. On the first take, he fucking caught the bike, and James Cameron, the director, had to cut and go, okay, well, we can't have you run as fast as you can, because if you do, the world's gonna end. So he literally was running slower than he could in those scenes. So he was not being sped up. He was actually slowing himself down. That's wild. So yeah, he's a great fucking actor.
I mean, he had them high hands going. That's wild. Was it his hands, man? Just fucking throwing them. And I feel like he got pigeonholed for a bit of just being like another action movie guy.
Yeah, but he's a really good
he's just another
actor.
Dolph Lundgren. We can't give him anything with any teeth to it.
Agreed.
And I feel like maybe for me, the first one I saw him outside of the action movies was playing in Walk the Line, a Johnny Cash biopic. And I was like, damn. Because I'm like, every time I see him, I'm sure you do the same thing. I just go, oh, shit, it's a T-1000.
Yep, and you're just like, oh, I'll watch it, you know? And, but no, man, and this movie, what Josiah Saw, this is unlike anything he's ever done before. I don't think he has anything like this on his, like, filmography.
Yeah, there's some really intense scenes that'll get brought up in the interview as well, but yeah, I mean, good for him taking a role like this. Like,
yeah, and you also you mentioned Eli, who's played by Nick Stahl, and actually it's funny because I believe due to COVID, I believe was the reasoning, but Vincent Grashaw, it was either COVID or scheduling or both, but director Vincent Grashaw actually didn't meet Nick Stahl until like he was on set for his first scene.
Oh wow,
yeah.
Also Terminator.
Yeah, Terminator 3, right?
Terminator 3. And he's also in a movie, Bully. Have you ever seen that?
I've never seen Bully, but I actually looked it up after talking to you, and it seems like I would want to check it out. It seems good. It seems like something I'd want to see.
It would have been bought on my Vudu a while ago, but they only offer standard.
Okay.
They haven't updated even to like HD. It's literally only in standard def.
Your DVD ain't good enough for you.
Dude,
no
like
more.
I said, and I'll bring it up with you. Dude, I saw that movie when I was like 16 one night, couldn't sleep from school. Like, it was like, I'm sure you had like some movies when you were a teenager that you're like, damn, a movie can like do that. Mm-hmm. Like it blew my mind as a teenager that that a movie could like tell like a story like that powerful.
Yeah, I feel you.
And it's based on a true story. But the only other person I know in it is. Well, it's Nick Stahl, Brad Renfro, and I never remember the guy from Mean Girls, the gay friend.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but he's in it too. He plays a weird dude in that too. Yeah, I would give this movie like a 9.1.
Nice.
Like
nice.
It's really good. And like I said, man, there's not many movies that I can see like 15 minutes left. I'm thinking maybe House of the Devil, somewhere around that range. It's about the only other movie I could think of that like is a slow burn for that long that you're like, okay, well, something's got to happen and this movie's almost over. I don't think you're going to be able to do what you think you can in this amount of time. And no, you did.
Well, here's the thing. I want to say something real quick. You brought up House of the Devil. Now, you know that you and I both cherish House of the Devil, and I'm not going to ask the question of which is better right now because that's a whole different topic. That's an episode in and of itself. But can we agree, are we in agreement, that regardless of which is a better slow burn film, that the acting and what Josiah Saw blows House of the Devil out of the water?
Yeah. I mean, they got Robert Patrick.
But I mean, everybody else does a good job too, man.
Well, Nick Stahl had quit Hollywood for a while.
Yeah.
And he's been back. I don't know if it's been a couple of years at this point, but it's good. It's good to see him back because it was funny. As much as like I was like, oh, Robert Patrick, I already knew he was in it. When I was watching with Nicole, like you got to figure Nick Stahl disappeared for a while. And I saw him and I was like, is that Nick Stahl? I'm like,
Yeah.
no. I was like, no, that guy hasn't acted in a while. And I'm like, that's Nick Stahl. I was like, I got to look this up. I'm like, holy fuck, it's Nick Stahl.
I was like, hey, it's older, less greasy John Connor.
The John Connor, it was cooler.
Well, for me, I'd have to say that this is a heavy movie, and viewers may not, walk away from this one thinking, I'm going to watch that one again ASAP. That's okay. What Josiah Saw is a film that you simply have to experience for yourself. Our guest today, Vincent Grashaw himself, said about the film, quote, "It doesn't jump off the bat with slasher, horror, torture. I think this is the type of movie that you watch and invest in as an audience member. It requires that. And by the end is where you're given the payoff to that investment." And I'm going to, I really wish that we could talk more about the movie, but for the sake of not ruining it, I'll hold back a lot. But let me start off with the bad, because there's really only one thing that I dislike about the film. And honestly, it's more of a nag than a dislike. But although I appreciate how the score by Robert Heisier, I hope I'm saying that right, the score ties the stories together with familiar tones to remind you that these stories somehow tie together eventually. The score reminds you that, they're attached. These stories are attached. However, there's a few scenes where the music starts too soon. And I do not like when movies tell you how to feel with music. The music should enhance, not predict. It's just ill-timed at spots. The scene where Eli in The Medium, for example, if the music hadn't kicked in when it did in that scene, it would have been much more effective and creepy. The way that The Medium was like reading the tea, putting her hands in it, and like her face in it, with no music, that would have been creepy as hell. And then, once she sees some shit, the music should have kicked on. Instead, the music tells you from the start that she's going to find something in her reading, and that kind of spoils it. But I do love the music. Like I said, it's just ill-timed at spots.
I guess that's a fair criticism. I personally didn't really notice it that much.
Well, the good is
There's a
that
lot.
is that the acting is truly astounding. The twist knocks you on your ass, and then it keeps kicking you while you're down. I mean, this movie takes you to the very limit of what a slow burn is. And like we've said before, the trick to a slow burn is having the payoff actually pay off. And it does. By the time the credits roll, you feel like you've been picked up and dumped on your fucking head. What Josiah Saw set the bar for me from now on in regards to slow burn. I want to see how many other films can keep up being so good for so long without the viewer knowing what the fuck is going on, and with that explosive of a finale.
Yeah, I was going to say, I guess it's a little bit of a spoiler saying that all the stories coincide, because I didn't know anything going in. And that's where I was at. I was like, I assume these stories are supposed to be tied together, but I don't know how. It almost had like a Tarantino Pulp Fiction like feel to the story structure a little bit.
Because of the chapters and everything. Yeah.
But it wasn't necessarily that way, where it was like the ending is the beginning's the ending, the ending's the beginning type thing. Yeah. You're just kind of like, how are all these tied together?
Right. And the funny thing is that the whole ending is the part of Mary's chapter, Mary's story. That's all the third story. A lot of people think that like once her and Eli reach the farmhouse, that like that's like a fourth chapter, and it's not. The whole third chapter is like from when it picks up, it says chapter 3, Mary's story or whatever. It's that whole thing to the end credits is all Mary's story. There is no fourth chapter. That apparently was some misconception some people have. But what Josiah Saw is truly masterful. Masterful in writing, acting, scene setup, everything. This isn't a good movie. It's a great movie. 9 out of 10. And there's no burn and learn this week. Too many potential spoilers. So let's get right into our interview with director Vincent Grashaw. All right, today's guest is a writer and producer. He's known for his films Cold Water, Then I Go, and the film that we're here to talk about today, What Josiah Saw. Thank you, Vincent Grashaw. Thank you for being on High on Horror.
Oh, thanks for having me. Just excited to talk to people that have just watched it or interested in talking about this one. So, yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, we're thrilled to talk about it. Before we get started into that, though, I wanted to ask you, what's your stand on cannabis? Are you a smoker? Have you smoked before?
Yeah, I mean, I have. I'm not an avid smoker or anything. It's sort of a rare occasion if I do, but um, yeah, it's here and there, maybe once a year type of thing on the right occasion for me.
Okay. Have you ever like indulged in edibles or anything like that, or do you like when you do it, or is it usually like just smoking
Yeah,
old school?
it's funny, man. I haven't done that in a really long time, but I've in my 30s, mid 30s, I had a pretty funny edible experience. It was wow. I sort of cross into what I call the planet vortex. If I just happen to, thing I've noticed with, I guess, cannabis or weed, it's once if I just take a hit or two, I'm good. But if I just cross over, it's just it's like spiraled, and I'm in other planet. And it was interesting the time that a couple times that's happened to me. But so yeah, but not afraid of it or anything. It's just once in a while. It's got to be the right situation for me.
Understood. Okay, so look, what made you want to be a filmmaker? You know, and you've had a couple acting roles as well. What made you want to be in like the movie making business? Like, were there any movies that inspired you that made you say, "I want to do that when I grow up"?
Sure. I mean, the acting was never a thing I was really pursuing at all. It was sort of like my role in Bellflower was because I was producing it, and all of us, we made that movie for so low budget that we just put ourselves in it because we knew it was going to take a long time to make it, and we didn't know if we'd have access to the actors for that long. So we just everyone acted in it, and none of us really. I mean, maybe one or two of us in Bellflower had acting experience, but it was just something that we kind of had to do, and so acting wasn't really ever a pursuit of mine. I loved it though; it was fun to do. Um, I could do it, and if I had a friend who was making a movie and asked me, I would do it. But directing was always kind of my thing. I mean, I think it started. I was writing in very young. I was a fan of movies, like most people are. When around 12, 13, 14, I was the movies I was watching. I started really thinking about how they were made and started writing. And there was a website called Drew Scriptorama back then that I just would download scripts and read them or look at them, see how to format them, and started writing scripts, sort of rip-offs of movies that I loved. And but I was doing it, I was being creative, and I knew it and I liked it. But then I started making stuff, and I really liked just the execution of making it more than writing, which is probably why I don't write too much. I like it and I'll do it here and there, but I really love the to read somebody's thing and fall in love with it and kind of make it my own from there. But yeah, I was doing it in high school and it got better. I just got better at making stuff, and by the time I got out, I knew I wasn't going to go to college, so I basically had this script that did really well in that first project Greenlight. I don't know if you guys remember that. Um, the very first one, it was like
Yeah.
2000.
Was that Ben Affleck and Matt Damon or something? Right?
Yeah, yeah. It was their first one. And the script had written, I was 18, 19 years old. I think it was 18 when I wrote it. And it got into like the top 30, I think, or some shit. And I just was all of a
Oh,
sudden like,
nice.
oh yeah, this is a big deal. Like, yeah, I'm gonna, and I met some people, they wanted to make the movie. And then, so at that point I was like, okay, you can just skip everything. And if you get a movie financed, you just can go and make it. And so for many years, that was my sort of path. I didn't go and work as a PA to climb a ladder or anything. I just kind of just had some people that wanted to make it. And through my 20s, while I was working like a regular job arresting shoplifters, I tried to get the movie made and got screwed over a lot, had ups and downs. And then it kind of led to the making of Bellflower, which me and a few friends made something for so low budget. And then that blew up. That did like Sundance and got Spirit Award noms for us, a couple of them. And it just changed our lives. Like for me, I parlayed that into a sort of directing career from there.
And have you always been a horror fan?
Absolutely. Like it was, I love all movies, obviously, but specifically horror was some of the stuff that I had seen early on. One of the genres that I just really loved. Um, I think that started with like obviously Halloween's, Scream, Blair Witch. And that said, though, there was other movies. I really love like A Bronx Tale, and there was a lot of movies I watched that really influenced me that had nothing to do with horror. But I did love horror.
That's awesome. A lot of people we have on here sometimes aren't horror fans, but they make horror movies. So it's good to know that, that you're a fan of the genre, and that always I feel like helps when someone's making a movie, knowing what they're doing because they know what like the genre's been. And you've never done anything like this. You said that this was the darkest thing that you'd ever make. And what made you decide that What Josiah Saw was going to be that film that you allowed to take you there just this once?
Right. Well, the content's pretty heavy. There's a lot of themes in there that are dark, obviously, and unsettling. I was really interested in how it explored those in a sort of horrific way. And at that time when I had first read this, God, it was 9 years ago, that it was sort of before that new wave of, the sort of elevated horror, whatever you want to call it, like the Babadook or It Follows, a lot of the Witch, or there's been a slew of them, they're really well made horror movies the last 10 years, and I knew I was on the right track when I came across this script, and it just took forever to get it made, so that was unfortunate. But I knew we were on to something, like with this kind of quality film that was scary but grounded in humanity. The way it explored the characters, like you don't see that. I didn't see that in a lot of horror movies. I mean, I love certain horror movies that are popcorn flicks or really scary and jump scares, and this didn't really have that. But I was so rattled when I finished it. I'm like, this is a damn horror movie, and I've never read anything like it. So I just knew I wanted to do it. And not to say I do want to do a horror movie again. Something tells me this is probably, in terms of themes and taboo themes, it's probably the darkest I would do. I don't really see it getting darker than much as I could be scarier, sure, but I don't know about darker.
Yeah, I got that. And, you were attached to the project from the start, if I'm correct. The writer, Robert Dilts, he was actually sending you the script as he wrote it. Have you ever had that type of back and forth on another film or a script with someone else from its conception? And did you send him back any feedback or notes?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like I said, I have written and directed stuff, but I really just love the process of reading something that you have no idea what it is. And for me, it's sort of an instinctual reaction I have as an artist with it. I just start to really visualize it, and I go with my gut with whatever that led me. And I've had that, with a couple of scripts. My next film, I had, the writer is fantastic, and yeah, I have notes, and you go through and make tweaks and stuff. And I did a lot of that with Robert Dilts on Josiah for many years. I mean, if we made the script when it was in 2013, it would be significantly different in a couple of areas. So as much as it's kind of a pain to wait till you get financing and get it going, sometimes it's a blessing. By the time you get it made, it's the best version of it.
Right, totally. That makes total sense. And like you just said, the movie took 6 years to get made. Was that, or I guess the script took 6 years to get made into a film. Was that due to how dark the content was, or like is that why you hit walls? Did you hit any walls because of that making the film?
Yeah. On top of, I mean, regardless of any movie you try to get made, the financing had always been the hardest part to get any movie going, regardless of the theme or genre. This, on top of it, was a very unconventional structure with the chapters. And yes, there's a couple scenes in this movie that are really something people several times had been like, oh, can you change it or cut it or change it to this and go easier with certain things. And I felt like anybody who was saying that just wasn't right for the movie. And it didn't spend too much time with that, because I just felt it was so critical to kind of the way the movie moved and ebbed and flowed. Those certain really intense moments were critical. So I didn't really entertain that, but yeah, it had a hard. It made it a little difficult to get it going. On top of just finding investors in general to say yes. But Random X Productions, this was their first film, loved the script and didn't really have any feedback with that, and they were ready to go right away. Very easy to work with, and they're doing my next film. We're working together on that, and so I've sort of got lucky with finding a group that trusts me, and they're growing, and they're really creative people that give you that liberty, and so I'm just grateful to be making movies at this point, especially in this climate, man. It's hard to get any movie made, even with name actors now. It's just tough. The economy is tough. So
Right.
yeah, we're excited. So
And the production was kind of a nightmare. Your Airbnb got robbed, and the cops set up a sting and busted the guy at the hotel. Like, what got stolen, and like, how did they like set him up to like arrest him?
so what happened is yeah, so it got burglarized, and they got a bunch of my producer's stuff, everything, backpacks, laptops.
Oh,
They didn't
jeez.
get our hard drives, thank God. But just a ton of stuff. And basically, I mean, the guy got away with it for a while, but then my first AD, he got a call from a friend of his, and she was like, "Did you just order $200 worth of Schlotchkis fast food on my card?" And he's like, "No." He's like, "Oh shit, but we were just burglarizing it. He may have got your credit card, so." Yeah, where was that sent to? So they were able to pin, because they had already filed the police report, and so they were able to pin where that order went to, and it was like some shitty motel, and the cops just raided it.
Oh,
They
wow.
went and they busted him, and he had tons of stuff. He was a pro thief. He had somebody's dog he stole.
Oh,
He
wow.
had
What?
tons of, so they got almost everything back for us. I think my producer, he didn't get back like a ring or a watch from his grandfather that
That
he'd
sucks.
given him, so he didn't get that back. It was probably pawned off, but everything else we got back. So yeah, I mean, it was trench warfare on that movie behind the scenes. A lot of crazy stuff happened. Hardest movie I've ever done.
And did you have COVID affect the shoot in any way?
No, luckily we finished shooting right before the pandemic, and so I know it's been like 3 years since then
Yeah,
almost. But and we just came out this August, but we waited. We had finished editing and color and everything by September 2020. So it kind of was we got lucky because I was in hibernating editing for most of the pandemic, and then by the time it was finished, we waited about a year. So we didn't want to premiere virtually. We wanted to do the festival circuit in a physical capacity. So investors were cool. And we just waited about a year and premiered at Fantasia, and then did festivals for almost a year. And after Fantasia, Shudder bought it, but we didn't announce the Shudder acquisition for about 6 months.
Okay.
So we had sold it to them, but it took a little while. We just waited for the announcement because there wasn't a reason to announce it that far in advance.
Okay, that makes sense. I actually made a note while watching the film. I've watched it twice now, once with my wife, and I made a note that at the 1 hour and 25 minute mark, that I still had no clue where the story was going or how it was going to pay off. But goddamn, does it pay off? I mean, this is a slow burn done right. So I want to know, what do you think the trick is to keeping people invested in a slow burn film and not turning it off before the payoff?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I just trusted the script and how he executed it. I mean, just to be honest, like the first cut of this movie was 2 hours and 38 minutes. So I knew I had to get it under 2 hours, somehow under 2 hours. I mean, I felt I trimmed everything I possibly could, and without really, really compromising characters. And this is one of those things. Maybe a year from now, I'll look back and be like, "Oh, I could have trimmed another 5-10 minutes out." you never really have that luxury when you're cutting and when you're coming down to it. You got to finish at some point. And yeah, it's just one of those things that I feel like, and I'm okay with it. It requires the audience full attention. You know, this is not a movie you can kind of get up, take your phone and leave the room to the refrigerator. Like, you really have to invest in it to reap the benefits and find all the Easter eggs and stuff like that. You know, and in some people it is too slow, and that's cool. Like, I get it. It's just, you have to be into this kind of movie. And so I'm glad to hear that you were you were in and stuck around and into it.
Oh, absolutely. It was
I
amazing.
think
I was like, I don't know where this is going, but it's like the characters have me hooked.
yeah, I felt if you invested in that commitment to watch a 2 hour movie, that it really gave the characters the necessary depth and like textures to them and their decisions to really be along with the ride, you know? And honestly, there's not much you can do to prepare for that other than just do your best to execute it and honor the script. And I felt that's what we did. And, you know, hopefully the audiences respond to that. And the viewers of this one aren't expecting something completely different.
Yeah, you were saying the original cut was 2 hours and 38 minutes. Do you remember any of the kind of stuff that was like cut from the film?
Oh, for sure. In fact, I gave Shudder 11 of the deleted scenes. There was a little bit more, but there was like 11 solid scenes that will probably be on like Blu-ray or DVD whenever that is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I can get into some. There was there's some small things, but then there's some significant like scenes. There was a scene with Thomas sort of roaming doing while he was doing the cleanup of the whole farm property in the first chapter, and he encounters a caravan of the carnival, and they're passing through town, and so those gypsy carnival, he comes across them because they stop at a dead crow in the road, and he helps them by just taking the crow and throwing it. And it's kind of a funny scene, but you see him meet some of the carnival people there. And it just went on for like 2.5 minutes, and they help him like start the tractor, and so that whole sequence was just, it was cool, but it didn't really do what we needed it to do. It didn't drive the story the way that I felt it would at that time, and it's a little too coincidental of him coming across the gypsies that Eli ends up meeting. You know, that was a big one. Scott Hayes was really fantastic in that scene, though. And then another would be there's a moment when Mr. Gentry, the guy who was the town like city councilman that the oil people came and visited. There's a scene where he goes to the farmhouse, and it's pretty suspenseful. Like, he shows up and nobody's answering the door, and he just enters and he kind of roams the house, and it's pretty creepy because you hear shit, and he finds the mail from the oil people it's not been opened yet, and he sees it's there, and he just sees the place, and he's calling out for the Graham family, and then he hears some stuff, and you see that the front door is open, and it's just suspenseful, and he walks out, and you think something's going to happen to him, and you don't really see anything, and then it sort of cuts back to what's in the movie with Thomas and Josiah, and it's after the really intense scene that happens to them at the end of the first chapter.
Yeah.
And they basically talk. You're kind of confused, like, well, what happened? What did they do to Mr. Gentry? Did something happen to him? And at the end of the film, you see when Eli gets there, when he walks to the tree and he's looking at the tree, he looks over and he sees Mr. Gentry's car is there, and it's covered with tarp. So he doesn't really know what that means, but the audience is like, oh shit. And so he walks over to the car and sees the keys are in there, but then That was sort of the gist of it. But I really didn't care for that because it did a couple things. It made it seem like Thomas was a killer and just refusal to sell this farm and at all costs and would kill somebody. It just didn't work for me because Thomas's motivations are more pure than that. It's simply like at the end of the day, his motives were specific to his sisters and his family. It just kind of took the movie in a more a different direction that I thought it was sort of silly, you know?
That makes sense.
But it did sort of provide a little closure on the whole Gentry thing. But I also thought it was just unnecessary. I kind of like that you met the oil guys and Gentry once and you never see them again. It's like a sort of little small town ghost story, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
And
But there's a ton more, but you guys can see that on the Blu-ray or whatever.
do you have any? Is there any release date on the Blu-ray or?
I don't know. Shutter said that they're planning something, but I don't know. I'll have to
Okay.
keep you guys posted on it. And obviously, we'll post about it when they want to market that.
And what are some of your favorite slow burn horror films?
God, I mean, you could call the Rosemary's Baby, Shining, Exorcist. Those are like the big ones, but I really love. I mean, it's weird. Like, what's the definition for some people of slow burn? It may not feel like a slow burn to others. Like, Speak No Evil was a good film that came out. I don't know if you guys have seen that. I saw that in Finland. I was there for a film festival with
Yeah, that's
Josiah in this film. Speak No Evil.
next week's episode. We directed Christian Taftrup, the director, and we reviewed the movie. So yeah, we know the movie. That is a slow burn. It's excellent.
Yeah, I thought that was great. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I have a weird taste in movies. Like like my favorite of the Halloweens, or the ones that were just there's something I pull from that different than others. Was I really loved Halloween 6, Curse of Michael Myers, and the theatrical cut. I really love the Halloween 2, the Rob Zombie Halloween 2. Like, and it's just weird. I don't know why. Like, so I'll have movies like that. I'm just like, no, I really like that. I don't think it's like epic or anything, but I could watch those anytime because they're well made and there's something interesting about like characters that I don't know. I have a weird taste, I think.
Well,
But then I like the conventional.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, nothing. I'm just a fan of movies, man. Like all different types.
Well, I was going to ask you, are you a fan of the producer's cut of Halloween 6?
Not really. I mean, I don't feel like they finished it, and I heard some stuff from the producer. I remember him talking about it was never really finished with proper score and sound design, and it feels really rough and a lot more cheesy to me than the theatrical. Just there's something about the theatrical that I just really liked because it was the first horror Halloween movie I saw in a theater ever when I
Okay.
was 14. And so that had an impression on me, you know. I just liked it, and I liked the sound and the score and the things they did with Michael. He was scary in that one. Like he just was scary. So I hated Halloween Kills, hated it. But I'll love like Halloween 2 from Rob Zombie, but not like Halloween 1 from Rob Zombie. It's just weird.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. The thing is, John and I were huge Halloween fans, and when the producer's cut came out, I missed the whole VHS thing that they did, and we never got to see the bootleg of it. So it was like it came out on Blu-ray, and we were hype. I remember, like, I think he called off of work, we got together to watch it, and we were like, man, this is a piece of shit. Like they did, like there was this hype about, like there was this hype about it being like this like great like unreleased cut. So like all that, there was like this myth about it, this lore to it, where it was like, oh my god, this is going to be epic. The theaters wouldn't put this out or something, and it was terrible.
Yeah, I kind of felt that way as well. I thought it was silly, and what they did with the theatrical was kept it creepy, and they didn't really get into too much of the cult stuff, and it made it a little scarier. And I felt like it's almost like with that movie, that producer's cut, they were just trying to make it as much as the score and the tone of the movie to like the older Halloweens, and it just didn't work. It just for me, it just didn't work. It was silly.
Yeah,
Um,
agreed.
yeah, I still have no clue how Jamie Lloyd had a baby. Can you? I mean, Michael Raper. You guys tell me.
That's what's
'Cause
implied in
I'm
the
still
producer's cut.
why I just that's some dark shit.
Uncle Daddy Michael.
Michael. Like, it just made no sense. Like, but I don't know. I still am pissed they didn't cast Danielle Harris for that
She only
Jamie
wanted
character.
$1,000 more.
Stupid. I don't know why they did that. And you know what though? They probably wouldn't have used her in Rob Zombie's versions if she wasn't that though.
Yeah, fair enough. That's true.
Because probably I have a feeling Rob Zombie was like, nah, they boned you on that. Let's get you in again somehow. And because they clearly screwed up by not casting her.
Yeah, agreed. They kind of did the same thing with Chucky recently, how they recast Andy in Child's Play 3, but now Alex Vincent's back in the show and stuff to be Andy again. So it's always good when you realize that, casting fucked up and they get it right again.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm a nostalgic person, so part of me wishes that. I mean, it's not a spoiler or anything, but I'm trying to come up with. It's probably not even possible, but they should bring back the original three for a Blair Witch thing, and I would totally be down to do something with the original actors somehow. And I've got some ideas, but like it's something like that. If like to bring Blair Witch back, it would be like if you can get at least two of the three original people, because I don't think Heather Donahue's acting anymore, and I doubt she would want to do it again. But if you got at least two of the three back, I would love to kind of tackle something like that.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And never say never about Heather. I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis said she'd never do another Halloween. I think it's all about the writing. I think if the script was right, she'd do it. That would be pretty damn cool to see another Blair Witch movie, too.
Yeah, I guess it's probably with her money and because using her real name and that everything that happened with Blair Witch really, I think it really messed with her and just the career. And I know that she had said that she wished she never used her real name because it just changed something. It did something to her, almost not delegitimizing her acting career, but it made it seem like you know what the Blair Witch was her whole world or something. When
Yeah, I get
I
that.
think she just wanted to act.
Definitely. All right, so let's get back to what Josiah saw. I wanted to ask. I
Right.
wanted to say. So you had said that you didn't put too much thought into the farmhouse being a character; that you more just focused on the people in the story. So looking back, are you surprised and like proud that the farmhouse became a character on its own organically?
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, the farmhouse was definitely important to communicate a time like in the past. To feel like. I mean, we definitely put a lot of scouting to find the right house. Um, and it had to there's so many check boxes with that thing. It had to be two stories. It had to have a big tree right nearby. It had to be old. It had to have that character to so, the inside that really just made it feel dated. And they're harder and harder to come by, but it was one of those things. The second we walked in, it was clear this was the house. And I don't know if I meant that this house isn't a character, but it just felt like we had to find the right house, and we would know it when we did. And the happy accident thing here is you can't really control the time of year. You're shooting a movie all the time, and a month before we were at that house, everything was green, everything. And by the time we're shooting there, everything was dead. And so it just we got lucky in that sense. And the house does feel like this is a place and time that feels like a memory. And that whole first chapter in me should feel like a memory. You shouldn't really know the grasp of the time period even. And I think that those are little happy accidents, at this budget level, which we just didn't have much money, but everything really worked out when we found that house.
Yeah,
And
that's
yeah, I'm
awesome.
glad that people feel like it's a haunted character. It is a kind of character. You're right. Um, there's a lot of sound design put into just scenes in that house of it creaking, and you hear things when you shouldn't. And there's a lot of that throughout it. And so, yeah, we're lucky. That house, though, inside was painted blue for some reason. And so we spent a ton of money changing the wallpaper, like putting wallpaper, painting the insides differently. It was odd. I was like, whoever painted the inside of this crown molding house blue, it was insane.
That's kind of a bitch, because after putting wallpaper on, then you have to like age it and stuff too, right? You had to weather it because it couldn't look like brand new. So that's even more work.
Yeah. Stephanie Reese, our production designer, definitely had to do a lot of that. And it was weird too. When we walked in, there was like thousands of wasps, dead wasps, nests, everything. We had to have the whole thing, like the exterminator come in and get rid of it all. But I was like, leave the dead wasps. I want dead wasps everywhere.
Well, you had kind of alluded to a certain uncomfortable scene earlier in this interview. I wanted to ask you how everybody in the film is obviously professional. It's a well shot film. It's well acted film. How hard was it filming a scene like that? The porno mag scene. And I imagine as a director, you were like, let's just get this done and move on as fast as we can.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's one of those things when in pre-production, when people are reading it, it's like really a conversation. It's really, it was a lot of talk about it between the actors. I mean, I got turned down from many actors for the Josiah role, essentially because of that stuff. And they all pretty much were like, don't change the scene. I just can't go there.
Okay.
So I'm going to pass. But, I think it was Michael Parks we had cast, and he was down for anything. That dude's crazy. But I loved him. He's great. But he unfortunately had passed away. So that was in 2015.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, Michael Parks is great. He's awesome. I don't know if you guys seen him in Red State. He was so good.
Yep.
But we had talked to a couple other guys. John Travolta, actually, I was talking to for a little bit about playing it, and he had a concern about that scene. But it would have been really interesting, different sort of movie. But Robert, he was even reluctant about the scene, and we had to talk through it. And I think most of these actors just want to know they're in good hands with the material and how it's going to be done right. And I get it, just done the wrong way. That scene's a freaking mess. But yeah, we got in there, and on the day it was sort of like, all right, here's the old porno magazine, and just put the cameras on them and didn't shoot a lot and got what we needed. And I thought we did it in a way that kept it really raw. And at some point, I know Robert and Scott just like, we don't want to do this anymore. We're done.
I can imagine.
Got it.
Understood.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. One of my friends had showed up to see some of the film, like shooting, and showed up that day. Walked in, and we were shooting that scene, and he's like, "What? What are you guys doing?" Yeah.
Oh, that's wild.
We got it. And I'm really happy with how that scene came out, because it's very effective and uncomfortable, but I think we did it right to where it's not a shock value scene. It's not trying to just do something to get you. There's a lot going on in that scene for the story and the characters and their history.
Yeah, agreed. And it was definitely it was well done. I always refer to like there is no such thing as a good rape scene, so I'm not saying that at all, but I always refer to the Hills Have Eyes remake, the Alex Aja remake, the trailer scene, like the way that they allude to the rape without showing it, it's like that's stronger than showing it a lot of the time. So a lot of times when you can film things like that, like uncomfortable things, in more of like a classy way, you can get away without showing. Like you don't need to go there. If you film it right, people get what's going on and they don't want to go there. You know what I'm saying? So like it was well shot. It's definitely well done.
Yeah, and to that point, like, to me, why this scene is so critical, one of the reasons outside of the characters and why that's necessary, I knew we were switching gears, and the audience doesn't know this, but we're switching gears into another chapter. So as uncomfortable as that is, having that scene be so strong and uncomfortable gives you permission and like reason to go, get me out of here. Like, I don't want to be at this farmhouse. It's only been 30 minutes. Get me out of here. What the hell? Like, I
Right.
can't take through 2 hours of this shit. So when that switch of gears happens, it really, it almost saves you in a way. And you go, okay, where are we going now? Thank God we're not at that farmhouse. And then you can, it kind of takes them on this other adventure. I think if it wasn't that intense of a scene in Eli's chapter, they would have been like, well, "What's going on at the farmhouse? Like, what? I want to see what's going on there." Like, it would have had an effect like that, I think, and it would have hurt the movie.
Right.
So I liked that as a device because even as a reader, when that happened, I was like, "Man, this is fucked up."
Yeah. Right.
I don't know. So yeah,
Totally.
so yeah.
Well, all of the performances in this movie are fucking stellar. I mean, to me, especially Tommy, played by Scott Hayes. I mean, he stole the show, in my opinion. Like, I was blown away by his acting. I truly was. Like, I actually was looking up other shit he was in after watching the movie because I'm like, dude, this dude's fucking skilled. And his character, Tommy, he's utterly heartbreaking. Yet you're scared to see him because of how unstable he is. I just just incredible performances, incredible acting.
Yeah, no, I mean he's a lived-in performer for sure. I don't know if you've seen him in Child of God. That's the
No, I
movie that
haven't.
I saw that I was like, he's the guy. You should watch that if you like his acting in this. It's a James Franco film, Cormac McCarthy novel
Okay.
adaptation, and it's a weird movie. It's not a great movie by any means, but Scott's performance I think is what got him on a lot of people's radar, including myself. Um, Definitely worth a watch. Um, and yeah, there's a ton of stuff. If you watch him in this movie, there's a lot based on the whole ending and how things come together. Like, you'll see a lot of the prep he put in, everything leading up to that. You know, like a lot of people have feelings about what, is he mentally challenged? Like, what is he? And there's all the answers in his performance for sure.
Well, did Scott or Robert Patrick or anyone improvise lines or bounce ideas off of you, or was everybody just like following the script?
Honestly, everyone pretty much followed the script. I don't remember anything specific where people improv. I know Scott, he would do a lot of character things like mumbling to himself, and those are all him. But in terms of like the meat of a scene, they were always pretty much what it was in the script. Tony Hale in Mary's chapter, he would inject a tiny bit of, little jabs of humor here and there, but subtle stuff. But yeah, no, everyone I think was just really excited about the script, and it wasn't that kind of improv type movie. So little things would happen here and there, but nah, for the most part, specifically Robert Patrick wanted to honor the script, the way Josiah was written, almost word for word.
And Robert Patrick, it took the role after some hesitation. And then, from what I understand, he asked you to send him your film that you were most proud of, and you sent him, and Then I Go. And then he was on board. Was it just that one scene in particular that was his hesitation to take the role, or was there anything else with the character?
I think the scene obviously is some of it, but no, I think it's just decisions to make a movie like this for this low budget. You're not going to make much of any money. It's a commitment, it really is. And so I respect actors. They put a lot before they commit to a movie of any sort, because, this is time. Like, this is time, this money out of their pocket doing a movie like this. And so, I think it's just it could be as simple as somebody, I don't remember this specifically, but if he may have not seen his family in a while, maybe he doesn't. He was on a film, but right before mine, so he was going to go from that film to mine basically, and so a lot of those factors go into it, and I think him seeing my film at least provided him some, like, all right, this guy's going to tackle this in a mature way. This isn't going to be a sort of stylized, crazy, ridiculous movie. Like, I wanted that approach, and I think in our meetings on the phone, he was sold on it. Um, but yeah, I think if my previous movie wasn't good, he wouldn't have done it.
And Nick Stahl and Kelly Garner, they were both in a film before this that I think is very underrated. It's a 2001 movie, Bully. Have you seen that film?
Oh yeah, I saw that in the theater at the New Art in 2001 in LA. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Larry Clark's film Kids. Bully, I didn't like it as much as Kids, but it's a great movie. Like, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I remember I was like 15 or 16 one night, couldn't sleep, had school the next day, and it came on like HBO at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, fucking like blew my mind as a teenager.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking about well done rape scenes, like Nick Stahl in that movie, when that scene where there's the rape scene, he is so terrifying in it, and that was interesting to see because Nick's an inherent like sweet guy, really caring, sweet, gentle person.
Yeah, and he's
So
just
he's
such a prick in that movie.
a monster.
I mean,
Yeah,
and
I
it's
think
good that he's
initially
back
they were
acting
gonna
again.
cast. Sorry.
I was saying it was good. It's good that Nick's back acting again.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd always been a fan of him, and I know he had been back for about a year at the time when we did this, and uh, he brought something to the Eli character that definitely was not in the script. So he brought a little like Eli was written a little more cocky and in really great shape. Wasn't so much of a drug user as he was a seller. He was a small town Adonis, like shredded, really good looking, just would have sex with everyone in town and just get into trouble with gambling. So Nick brought this other quality that I just felt elevated it, and you'd have more sympathy and uh, or empathy to go along with the ride with him. You know, he has these kind of qualities in him that I thought elevated Eli.
And lastly, I gotta ask. You might not answer it, but is that one character? Are they a ghost, or is it a figment of imagination?
Uh, in terms of like the one, I mean, honestly, this is the kind of thing where what I loved about this material is the perspective manipulation, agenda manipulation, like who unreliable narratives. But to me, what I really loved and what gravitated it to me was you can have the idea that the um, trauma is what manifests itself. Like we scare ourselves when we get home at night after seeing a scary movie. We think we see something. We do these things to ourselves, and most of the time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so the incidents in this movie to me really play with that. Without I'm not gonna go into like what I feel things are, but it kind of strips the mystery from you guys and other people watching it. But I will say the things that I love about filmmakers that I respect out there, like they'll take that sort of this could be a potentially somebody going mad concept. Maybe it's not even a ghost, maybe it is. But then it throws wrenches in there, like in The Shining, like who unlocked the freezer door for Jack Nicholson, right?
Yeah.
Somebody hit something, he couldn't get out there without that. But that movie was about a man going losing his mind, right? Or sort of those visions and things he's seen, I think could be a manifestation in his own mind. But somebody unlocked the freezer door, so he throws a wrench in there and says fuck you. So that's what I love about that. It really plays with those sort of things. So I mean, I like people taking away different things from it too, and I don't know if there's a wrong sort of perspective, but I like hearing about it.
And we want to thank you for being on again today. It was a real pleasure getting to talk to you. But do you have any upcoming projects?
Yes, sir. And I really appreciate you guys' time. Anytime, people see this and want to talk, I'm just grateful. So thanks. My next film I'm doing, we're going right into pre-production right now, actually. Um, and it's not a horror. It's a drama with a lot of dry humor comedy in it. Sort of like if you in the world of like The Wrestler and Fat City, you know.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys know Fat City, but
Yeah.
it's about a retired boxer who's left with his grandson, and he starts to train him. And this retired boxer has sort of got a chip on his shoulder for a past rival of his who was like running for mayor. And so, yeah, we're going right into that right now with the same team, Random Mix, to do it. So very excited. It's one of the best scripts I've ever read, written by Will Janowitz. So couldn't be more excited about this one. And I hope, I do want to do horror again. So I hope I come across a great script again one day and come right back.
Yeah, we definitely love to see you do horror again. And where can people keep up with you online?
I'm on sparingly. I'm on Instagram, Optical Railroad. That is my Instagram. And I'm on Facebook as well under my name. I don't really do much social media, so but I'm there.
All right, and yeah, again, thank you for joining us. If anybody hasn't seen what Josiah Saw, make sure to check it out on Shudder.
Yeah, thank you again, Vincent. It was a pleasure. Hopefully we talk again in the future.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks to all the horror hounds and smokers out there for tuning in. Thank you to Vincent Grashaw for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, man.
And make sure to follow us on social media, High on Horror 420, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. And we'll make sure to have the newest guest announcement out for you. And you can always check out our website, highonhorror.com. And I think that'll about wrap her up. Catch you later.
See you, everybody.